Okay, I think that the live stream might be up. It says I'm live now. Let me know if you guys can hear me. Just sort of waiting for people to come in too. So I did advertise on Facebook, and so hopefully some people will start to join. And if anybody is watching now from the replay, I hope you're having a great weekend or a great day if you listen to it way longer in the future. So Shabbat Shalom to everybody. And I'm going to be talking more about, I'm glad you can hear me now. Hi, everybody. So I'm going to be talking about basically what I've been doing or thinking about recently. And so it's going to be very personal, and I guess that's something you guys are probably interested in, but I don't like having it all personal. When I first started this channel, it was mostly just about studying the Bible, and that's what I was looking into, the Antichrist and all that stuff. And I was sharing my journey for what I was studying, and now what I'm studying is basically my life, and so it gets very personal now, and so it's very weird to just sort of be switching over to talking about my life. It's not really what I feel like I signed up for when I started this, but I'm sure my inner being or higher self had a purpose in mind for this. And I do want to help people if they're going through the same thing I'm going through. So, on the last video I did when I was talking about the Catholic Church and the book and all that stuff, and I was saying it's just so amazing that my family's Catholic Church was giving away this book for free. And you can see that show if you haven't, but some people might have found it confusing. I know one of the comments recently was about my thoughts of Revelation, and of course, you know, because somebody else had talked to me about it, some people were getting the impression that I was like pro-Catholic Church and maybe have a different theory as far as what a revelation is about if it's not the Catholic Church. And I don't know if that's what's going through everybody else's mind. And so I just want to say that I did sort of think that the revelation, when it talks about the Whore of Babylon and stuff, I do think that's more about the Roman Catholic Church. But there's actually a theory out there that it's Jerusalem because of the city that, you know, Jesus was crucified in and all that. That's an interesting theory, but of course then I suggested to check out the Antichrist for Dummies playlist, which goes through the fact that Revelation, most of it, has already happened. So I don't want to spend too much time on that, but the Antichrist for Dummies playlist does go into how it's the Roman Catholic Church and the Trinity and all that stuff that is the Antichrist. And of course I mentioned that in the previous video, that the Antichrist is basically the Trinity, and that it gets people to be lawless because they think Jesus did it for me because he's God, etc. And it's led to this whole Antichrist spirit thought process, whatever. But I don't really want to get into that whole thing right now in this video, but the point is some people found what I was saying confusing, and I don't like it when people can't understand me. And so I felt bad that somebody was finding it confusing and all that. And then I was hating on myself because I'm like, why can't I get this together? Why can't I be, here I am, more straightforward, more communicative, that people can understand me clearly and concise, you know, wording and all that stuff. And I know God works through people who aren't perfect, obviously. But, you know, I want to be clearly understood. And then, of course, I understand intellectually that people do find me easy to understand, or else they wouldn't be listening to me. If they couldn't understand what I was trying to say, then they wouldn't be watching my videos and they wouldn't be subbing and all that stuff. So I understand intellectually that people can find me relatable and understandable and all that stuff. And I'm not fishing for compliments in this video. My point is that we all have a bunch of programs in our heads that tell us that we're not good enough in some way or another. And so once I felt like I couldn't do anything about it, like how am I going to get people to understand me, then it immediately starts up these negative feelings which is a sign that I'm not where my inner being is, or my higher self, or however you want to see it, as God doesn't see me as, what's the word? God doesn't see me as incompetent at being able to communicate with people. And that's why I feel bad when I don't do that, or when I feel like I'm not communicating as well as I possibly could. And so the negative emotion is just that I'm not, seeing myself the same way God sees me, or the same way my higher self sees me, or the same way I am in heaven currently, my inner being is very intellectual and understands how to relate to people what I want to communicate. And I understand that. And when I don't feel that way about myself, then I feel negative emotion. And so that's what I was dealing with as soon as my live chat was ending and all that last week. And so then I beat up on myself emotionally, and because I have these old programs, that I'm not good enough, that I can't do what I want to do, etc. And we all have these old, negative thought patterns that can hold us back. And so this whole past week, I've been sort of dealing with this issue. Abraham says to milk it when you feel good, because the more that you focus on an emotion, the more it will manifest in your life. So the more you focus on something that you love, oh, I love this, I appreciate that, everything's going great, I love this, this is so appreciative of this world and everything that's in it, and that's so awesome. And when you start to milk your bad emotions, like, oh God, why did I do that? Oh, I'm so stupid, or gosh, I can never do this, and blah, blah, blah. And it just sort of snowballs in the wrong direction, and you don't want to do that. But I did that. And I started feeling really bad, and, started crying, and started just beating on myself, basically. And so it continued to go and snowball and snowball. And then if you don't deal with it when it's just the emotion, then it turns into physical manifestations. So after all this, I went to go relax, and I went to cook some food to eat, and I ended up burning my hand. Now, you wouldn't know it. I healed it, or God healed it, or whatever. But I put a pan in the oven, and I went to reach out with a pot holder, and I took it out of the oven, and I put it on the stove, and I thought, oh, it's not heated enough, what I was cooking. And without thinking about it, after I was looking at something else, and I came back and I just grabbed the handle and I put it back in the oven. Well, I didn't actually finish putting it back in the oven, because as soon as I picked it up, I realized what had happened. And I dropped it. I was like, wow, okay, drop it. Don't want it in my hand anymore. And went on the floor. And, the normal me probably would have swore, and a lot of normal people probably would have swore, and I just looked at my hand and I'm saying, I'm sorry. I know that the cells in our hand are all working with Source or God or whatever to heal themselves, and I just was like, you can heal yourself, and immediately went into the backtrack, like a repentance, basically. And I realized it was because of my emotions. I realized immediately what's going on. And I looked up what to do, and, put coconut oil on it and other oils like peppermint oil, and ran cool water on it and everything. And then it ballooned up. And, I was worried that it was gonna turn into something in a couple of hours, because they said it can take a couple of hours to turn into something, like third-degree burns or something. And I was like, I don't want to go to the hospital. And there's all these thoughts going on in my mind, but I did what I was supposed to do, and I calmed down, and I repented of my emotions, and I was talking lovingly to it, and basically healed it. I just relaxed, watched some comedy on Amazon, and just sort of let it heal itself. Relax and let it do what it's going to do, because our body's naturally wanting to heal itself. It's basically our emotions and everything that keeps us from being healed. Our, thought patterns about this is the way it is, that keep us in these negative illnesses, diseases, or whatever. I mean, disease is about dis-ease, about not being easy. And so I took it easy and brought to myself some ease. And like I said, I repented. I was talking lovingly to myself rather than negatively to myself, as I had been talking negatively to myself. But I'm just saying that when we milk our negative emotions, we bring forth manifestations that suck, and you don't want to do that. So what you want to do is whenever something is negative in your mind, you want to repent, which is turn around, come up with a new thought and start thinking positively about yourself and positively about what's going on in your life. That everything is working out for me, even if it doesn't seem like it is. I mean, I could say that my burning my hand could be very much not working out for me in the moment, but reality is it was working out for me, and now I'm telling you guys on how to deal with negative emotion manifestations. You just repent immediately and go back to loving yourself again and thinking kindly about the situation and that everything is working out for you, even if you don't think that it is. And so that's what I was dealing with there. And when I was thinking about it, I thought that it was just that it had started at that moment, but I was wrong. It came to me later that previously I'd been talking to somebody on Facebook, and I was trying to convince them or trying to get them to see things the way I saw things. And I had this vibration of I can't communicate to them what I want them to know, what I want them to see. So I realized that it was actually a previous vibration I was putting out there of that I cannot communicate my thought patterns, and that I never dealt with it. And so it just snowballed into this not being understood. And then people took it and they just couldn't understand me. I took it forward, and then I hated on myself, etc. And then I switched it up. I repented and everything to bring it forth. As Janet was saying, I don't think we are responsible for what others hear when we speak. We can be a great communicator, but if someone is hearing something else, that's where they are. And that's what I said. That's what I said when somebody said that they were misunderstanding me. And I was like, well, if they're not in the right frame of mind, they're not going to understand me. So, yeah, I agree that if they're not in the right frame of mind, they're not going to understand me. And that's true. However, if that was true in this situation, I wouldn't be beating up on myself. Like, it wouldn't have happened the way it did. But what happened, the manifestations continued on because I was focused on the feeling bad, the feeling like people can't understand me previously. And I realized that it wouldn't have happened in my life the same way. If it was just that someone is not understanding me because they're not at the right place, then I wouldn't have been dealing with the emotions that I was dealing with personally. And I have people on my channel who they put comments on my videos and they don't understand what I'm saying because they're not in the right frame of mind, and then I just leave it alone. I just walk away. And I'm just like, I know that they're not understanding me, and that's not a big deal. If it was about me putting forth a vibration of not being understood, then that's going to manifest in my life more and more and more and more and build up on itself, as was the case. But if I let go and I can just walk away from it, I don't care, then it obviously wasn't an issue with me so much as them. But I'm still attracting somebody who doesn't understand me. And it would be very great if I could attract people that do understand me. And I think that is because if I can send forth the message that people understand me, I'm a great communicator, I can clearly, communicate to people who may not have normally understood, but they can understand me because the Spirit's working through me, because the Spirit knows how they're going to hear me. And I know we're kind of co-creating and people are coming together. And what people want to see is what they're going to see. If people have a vibration of, I'm going to totally learn something from her today, then they might totally be able to understand me very clearly and learn something. Or they might not understand me at all, and they might still learn something because of the way that they didn't understand me. Our vibrations are mingling, and it's not exact one way or the other. There's a lot of back and forth going on, basically. But what I wanted to talk about is how I was beating up on myself, and we need to be able to not beat up on ourselves. And I understand this very clearly. I've listened to Abraham Hicks videos basically since about September, I think. May have been a little bit earlier than that, but it was around September that I had hurt my neck and shoulders, and I was listening to it a lot, specifically. And just sort of relaxing and letting go, because that's what, the whole message is, to relax. The more we stress out about trying to get what we want, it's because we feel like we don't have it. And if you have a vibration of feeling like you don't have what you want, then you're not going to get it, because your vibration of not having what you want is going to go forward, and just sort of snowball again. So we need to relax and say, okay, I already have what I want, and try to focus on all the things that you do have that are the feeling of what you want. One thing I wanted to mention in this video was that I have the feeling of wanting money. And some people might say, well, you're greedy. Why are you doing this whole prosperity gospel stuff and all that stuff? Well, it's not about being greedy. It's about, you gotta try to find the essence of what you want. I want money because I want to be able to not have to worry about bills. That's freedom from worry. I don't want to worry. That's freedom. Everything is already being paid for. Everything has been paid for. Everything is always working out for me. And if you can focus on the fact that everything is already being paid for, more of that can come forward. You want to focus on the essence, the freedom, the relaxation. You want to be able to relax. You have to relax in order to bring about a situation where you can have the free time to relax. So that's what I've been doing, and things have been continuing on where I'm making money while I'm able to relax versus being stressed out making money. So you want to focus on the feeling that you want to get and try to milk the feeling. Try to feel the feeling as if it's already there, which is praying in 100% faith that it's going to happen. I was brought about to that by Greg Braden, who said feeling is the prayer. You can look up Greg Braden videos if you've never seen that, but he's got a lot of great stuff. And he talked about how the Essenes were, feeling the prayer. And I know he goes into a lot of documents that I don't know that they're accurate, but he found that that was it. And he was explaining it from the Bible. Jesus said, pray as if it's already received, basically. That's 100% faith. And when you do that, you can feel the feeling of it's already there because you have 100% faith that God's going to provide and that it's already been provided because you already asked for it. And the law of attraction is so biblical and people don't even understand sometimes. But not you guys, right? So you want to focus on the feeling of what it is that you want. It's not so much that I want money to be greedy. Is that I want money to be able to relax because we were brought here in order to relax, in order to have fun and create. And how can you have fun and create and give to one another freely if you don't have to give? So why don't people have money? Well, a lot of people feel like they can't have money and that only rich people, the mean rich people, the elite, as they like to call them, have money because they were mean and they broke the law and they did naughty things, and that's why they call it being filthy rich, as if they're dirty, sinful creatures. And that's why they have money, but that's not the case. Some people might, but that's not necessarily the case. And so a lot of people have the vibration of, I don't like the wealthy. I don't like the elite. I don't like them. They're mean. They're bad. They do things that they steal from the poor and then they get rich. And that it is wrong to charge interest on a loan, or it's wrong to do this and it's wrong to do that, and it's their business stuff. And a lot of people think that the poor are poor because the elite have all the money. And I know that's not the case. And, you know, if you think that's the case and you're poor, then you're scapegoating and you have given your control over your wealth to other people. You've put your control over your wealth onto the elite, saying they're the reason I don't have money. And what that does is it locks you into them. It makes you a slave to them. There's a chain between you and them, and you're a slave to your belief that they are the reason you're poor. But the reason you're poor is because you believe that they're the reason you're poor. And once you break that chain and say, I'm the reason I'm poor, then you can change your life and you can take back your power and you can see yourself as wealthy. You can see yourself as not a victim of circumstance, but a victim of your own negative thought patterns, which you might say is really bad, but it's not, because once you realize that it's your negative thought patterns that are causing you to not have money, you can change your thought patterns so you can become wealthy. And that's what I'm going through the process of doing. And so I hope that someday I can look back on this video and say, see, I was going through the process, but now I have all the money that I needed to feel secure. Actually, right now I have all the money that I need to feel secure, which is my point, that we can find that feeling right now before it manifests. But once you find that feeling, it will manifest more and more and more and more and more, because you'll attract more of what you are feeling inside. But if you're feeling poor, then that's what you attract. And so a lot of people, like I say the poor are poor because of other people. That's just scapegoating. And so there's some people who say, well, you can't be rich because otherwise you're stepping on the poor. And so that's a negative thought pattern. And in that case, you're never going to allow yourself to be what you would call rich, because you think only people who step on other people get rich, and you think only people who take advantage of other people get rich. And so this all has to do with our mindset of what we believe. And so I know that there's people who are starving and hungry, and I do believe that it is their vibration that is keeping them in that state of being. But there are also people out there who are starving and hungry, and they're finding people who are donating to them. And they're receiving those donations, and they're going to be picking themselves up and climbing back up and up and up and up and up, because they have increased their vibration to a point where they're not feeling like they are poor, and they aren't getting their sustenances, because they've changed their vibration about it. But there's other people who they look at what's there, and they've got a child who's starving, and they focus on, I've got a child who's starving, I got a child who's starving, and they keep bringing forth this vibration. And they can co-create with their child and continue to have a child that's starving. And like I said, I've talked about this in my video, I'm trying to remember the name of it. I think it was the bad side of the law of attraction, or whatever, the bad side. The dark side, I think that's what I called it. And yeah, there's people out there who are negatively attracting their negative manifestations, because that's what they're putting forth. And Abraham says, you're so free that you can choose bondage. And it's the truth. You are so free that whatever vibration you're putting forth is what's being attracted. Okay, so Arthur said, do you personally know rich good guys. No, super rich good guys. Well, so I believe that there are rich good guys. And I was getting ready for this show, and I was not thinking I was going to talk about this, but of course I've manifested it, I guess. I went to my Christmas, stuff with my family, and I was just going to go spend time with my family, and they're not really, they're just what you would call maybe middle class, I guess. That's not rich. But the next day I went to, I was invited because of my stepmother's sister, so my step aunt, her family was having the Christmas morning or Christmas afternoon or whatever, Christmas afternoon to evening celebration. And so, of course, I was invited. I'm going along because that's where my stepmom's going to be, right? Her family and everything. Not that I don't like my step aunt. She's wonderful. And I actually house sat for her a while back when she was not married to this guy, etc. But so different circumstances over a period of 10 years. And so when we went to go to her house, it was a mansion in a gated community. And I know her, and she's not going to just, marry a bad guy. So in my head, I'm thinking, well, he's a good guy and he's rich. And so if I believe that there are rich good guys, then you can see in your world a manifestation of rich good guys. He seemed very nice when I met him. I didn't get to interact with him too much, but like I said, I mean, he wouldn't be, and she's great. I know her, and then she has some money because now she's married there, So I know rich, good girls, and obviously, like I said, she wouldn't marry him if he wasn't nice. So, yes. So I was at their mansion, and we had a meal, and I didn't have much because it wasn't vegan, because she wasn't prepared to have vegan meal. But, we talked about stuff, and she wants to not, there were dolphins that were dead on the coast, of Florida, and she's trying to send forth the message that people will not use as much plastic. Like they were talking about, people were using too much plastic and everything. And these people are nice. They want a better world. And so they're trying to do good stuff in this world. And yeah. So the answer is yes. I wasn't going to talk about that, but yes. And so there is a possibility for people to be rich and nice and good and want a better world. And you don't have to be evil in order to have money, and you don't have to step on people in order to have money. But some people are, I had this book, I think it was Napoleon Hill, and, it talks about how some people, they don't get paid what they're worth, not because they aren't worth maybe more. It's because they don't ask for more. They don't go forward with the extra step in order to get the raise where somebody else does. If you have a vibration of not being worth the right amount that you really would be worth, but you feel bad about yourself, you're not going to make the steps that show the boss that you could be worth the raise, because you're not sending forth that vibration of being worth the raise. And that's kind of the whole point here, is if you don't love yourself, you're keeping away the good. And so I want to talk about this. I've been product testing. And so sometimes they give me products, and sometimes I don't even have to test them because I give them information before they give me the product. So then I've got the free product, and now I can sell it on eBay or something. So that's what I was doing. I was putting some listings on eBay, and I was listening to this other video that was talking about loving yourself and everything. And that was my focus. And so I was putting item after item on eBay. And so there was another one that was an umbrella, and that was my last one. And I finished it up, and then I finished the other video, And I was looking on Facebook, and then there was this one ad, or not ad, but post about Abraham Hicks videos, which I'm constantly seeing Abraham Hicks videos because I'm subbed to a lot of channels, and I also have added myself into a bunch of groups on Facebook, etc., because it's what helps lift my spirits and not let me go down, etc. Like, I wasn't meditating after Christmas as much, and all of a sudden then I'm having these negative manifestations, like me burning my hand, which, like I said, is healed, but it was ballooned up, you know. Anyway, so I clicked on this Abraham Hicks video after I was done listing everything on Amazon, eBay, I mean. I used to sell on Amazon, which is why my thought patterns, which are still active apparently, are coming forth. But so I listened to this Abraham Hicks video, and it was about loving yourself. And that's why, of course, I was attracted to it. And the first, couple of minutes, she's saying that if you are not feeling worthy, or if you're hating on yourself, etc., you have an umbrella over you keeping out the good. And I thought that was so funny because that was the last item I just listed on eBay, an umbrella. And I was giving away an umbrella because I'm trying to bring in what I want. But she says if you hate yourself, you have this like shield over you, not a good shield, but there's good, loving stuff that's being brought to you. There's money that's constantly out there and being brought to you. It's like as abundant as the air. You can breathe it in as much as you care. One of my affirmations from the money video I did on Fiverr that I was selling. But, the money's constantly coming in, and we can breathe in as much as we care, but you breathe in and then you breathe out. Like, you bring it in and then you pay for things and you breathe it out. So in and out, that's the way it's supposed to be. You go in and out. But there's a lot of people who feel like I don't get enough. So you're constantly trying to breathe in, but then you're breathing out, like, and it doesn't get this good in and out, easy flow. And you want to be flowing very easily on this. So this umbrella keeps you from receiving the money. You sort of put up a shield when you say I'm poor. You put up this blockade over you. Like, I never have enough money. And money is coming at you and it hits you like, oh, I never have enough money. And it goes away. So we're kind of like blocking off the good stuff that's out there. Father, our God, is constantly flowing health and abundance and everything good towards us. And love. And when you say like, oh, I'm poor, I don't have enough money, I hate myself, I'm not good enough at this, I'm fearful of failing if I do that. Like I said, I never would have gotten that product testing company job thing if I hadn't gotten over my fear of what if they gyp me? What if they don't pay me back for this or whatever? Or fear of having a credit card and not being able to pay it off and everything. Even though I know that they said that they were going to pay it off and everything, intellectually you can know these things, and that it would have been their fault and they would have been, the ones, I could have sued them, etc., blah, blah, blah. Intellectually, it's okay and that God is constantly taking you forward and everything's going to work out. But sometimes you're like, well, I have these fears, what if he doesn't? What if I have to go through this? What if God lets me lose my house or whatever, right? Because I lost my house, but everything can be okay even if you do lose your house, So he's constantly sending forth this love to us. But every time we say all these negative things, I'm not going to go forward again, but you have this like bubble around you that's like a shield, and everything good is like bouncing off. Once in a while you let something in. But for the most part, all this stuff is bouncing off as you have these negative emotions. Arthur says, I know many bad guys who became rich and decided to be good rich guys. Oh, that's nice. That's really nice. And people can have these negative ways to get stuff, and then they repent from something else, and then all of a sudden, they're okay. Being rich and being poor isn't a bad thing, negative. Like, it isn't always a bad thing. you can learn stuff by being poor for a while. I wouldn't be able to talk about this and hopefully in the future have a ton of money and be able to say like, look, I went from rags to riches. You know, I wouldn't be able to praise God if I hadn't gone to the rags first, right? So we can lift ourselves up as long as we get rid of this shield that's blocking everything off. Because God is constantly flowing good stuff towards us. It says that in the Bible. It says that he is, you know, sending sun and rain on the good and the evil, and we're supposed to be perfect like he is. He's perfect in the fact that he's constantly giving everybody everything in the world. He's constantly giving riches, and of course in the Bible times the sun and the rain would have been for crops. You want the sun to grow the crops, but you also need the rain to grow the crops. So he's sending both to everybody. He's sending the riches. If you had a crop, you could have riches. He's sending it to everybody. But only some people are letting it in. And so the rich people are letting the riches in. And the poor people are not. The content people are letting the contentedness in. But you know that there's rich people who aren't content. There's rich and famous people who are depressed and they kill themselves, etc. You know, they overdose, whatever, because they're so depressed. They're not content, so they're not letting the contentedness in, even if they have the riches. So we are constantly being given everything that we could possibly want or need or desire, but we're not letting a lot of stuff in right now. And the rich people are the same way. But sometimes to them, they're just not letting the contentedness in. Some people are greedy and they lust for money. And when you're lusting for money, you're never satisfied. So they're not letting satisfaction in. But maybe middle class family is satisfied, so they're letting satisfaction in. So we have everything that we could possibly want, and it doesn't have to be a huge thing. But personally, I do want to be able to donate to places. I want to be able to help the animals that are, mistreated and dying and all that stuff. I'd like to be able to have money to donate to people. But how am I going to have money to donate to people? Well, of course, there's this one instance where I actually manifested money to donate to somebody without me having money. It's just fantastic. You can actually do this. So I don't need money to donate. I can send forth the message that people will get donated to, and that does bring in money. And I've had that. I'm not going to get into it in here, but it's happened. So it isn't necessarily that you need the money to do it. It's all frequency. They say currency. It's like the current in a sea. It's a vibration and it's a flow, and it's here, then it's there, and it's just going back and forth. And it is like air, it is who we are, but we manifest it if we are feeling like we have it. And if we feel like we don't, then we don't. So I know I can manifest donations to people even if I don't have money. It can come in a different way. And I know I can have whatever I need or want in the moment, even if it comes in a different way. I wanted to be able to have presents for people, and I had no idea how I was going to do that. But I manifested the product, testing company. So we have the ability to get what we want, but we need to stop feeling like it has to happen in this way, or it has to happen in this way. As soon as I relaxed and said, I don't care how it happens, then it can happen, right? It happened. I had no idea how I was going to have products, gifts for people. Actually, in my head, I thought, well, maybe somebody else will help me and, give me stuff to give other people. Because sometimes, like your dad will give you, oh, just give this to that person or whatever. Oh, thank you. Yes. Katrina was saying, I would love to donate to you, but I have no money right now. So that is really good to hear. I send you money to manifest somehow. That's fantastic. And that does work. I know it does. And, there's other people out there who might hear that and be like, oh, somebody's just sending prayers or whatever. Prayers are amazing. They are utterly amazing. Our intentions are amazing. And if you believe it, if you have that 100% faith, it can happen. And it's only if you don't believe it, it's like that shield. You know, if somebody believes like, I can't have money, I can't donate to this person, then you have a shield of you can't donate to that person. So how is it going to get there? It can't go through your shield, you know? But when you believe there's a different way that you can, as long as you stop feeling like, how am I going to do it? You know, how am I going to do it? You let go of how, and then it can happen. So we need to try to get rid of this shield that we have that's keeping everything that we want from us. And so I would just want to talk about that in this video, is that when we are feeling bad about ourselves, we're keeping things from us. So if you feel like if I feel like I'm not being understood, I'm keeping from me like a video last week where everybody understands me, right? So there's situations in which our frequency can block some people off from getting the benefit. And we want to get rid of this shield. And how do you do that? Well, you have to start loving yourself and thinking like you are a good communicator, you are this and you are that, and just affirm these positive things. And so, like I said, I had to repent, which is a turn of mind about it. So I was feeling bad about myself, but I turn it around and say, no, there's a lot of people who can understand what I'm trying to say. And what's happening is that when I feel like people can't understand me, my mind is clouded. It's a spiritual blindness, spiritual deafness, and you're not able to do what you want to do. So if you're poor, you have a spiritual blindness and deafness to the opportunities that are coming at you. And there's constantly opportunities coming at you. That's what happened with this whole Facebook thing for PPOC, the company that I'm doing, the product company, right? So I found this ad on Facebook. Now, I could have been scrolling through and maybe it would have been there all the time. The ad is out there for people to see, but somehow I was in the right state of mind and I saw it. And if I was in the wrong state of mind, maybe I wouldn't have seen it. But also, I could have seen it and just thought to myself, well, you have to pay for the products first and then they pay you back. What if they don't pay you back? And so the fear is one of those blocks. There's lots of stuff coming at you, but the fear blocks you off from getting it. So we have to let go of fear, which I know it can be difficult. I have been talking about that on my channel because I was dealing with it recently, and I still have things that pop up. But, I mean, I don't want to get into it, but when I was feeling bad about myself, I was thinking about like, maybe I shouldn't even do videos on YouTube, you know, like, what if I should stop that, you know? But that could stop from so many other people getting some help, right? So we have to let go of our fears and just change our mind about things. And I know that things are getting better and better and better. And there's more and more momentum. It's kind of like there's a big boulder and it's like you're pushing it up a hill, you know, and well, pushing it up a hill is like when you're doing the wrong thing. But when it's going down the hill is when it's going really fast and everything. If you can think about that momentum. So there's a lot of momentum around your frequencies, what you're putting forth. And it depends on how much you believe what you believe with how much momentum there is. So if you have a really strong belief that you're getting better and better and better, if you have a strong belief that you're getting better and better and better, if you get off track and you feel like, oh, I suck, you only have like a lesser belief on that. So it's not going to go too far. It's kind of like pushing that boulder up a hill. Like you're not going to get too far with it. And so it sort of, you go back into the full momentum of I am getting better and better. When I wake up in the morning, even if I have a bad day the day beforehand, I can wake up and I can shift my mind again to the positives. I am getting better and better and better. I think I'm getting to the point where I have a lot more momentum in getting better at being able to deal with things. Like I said, I just meditate to release the resistance It's so important to meditate. I had no idea. And you can see my video on how I did that, the meditation for dummies video, because I couldn't have done it, a year ago. I'm releasing so much resistance with meditation. It's ridiculous how well I feel now and how more, faithful I am that everything's getting better, that, I have the frequency, the feeling of relaxation so much more now that I started to relax. And I know I started to relax before I did it in faith. It was a leap of faith to just lay around watching TV when I feel like I should be making money. But when I felt like making money had to be stressful and constant, that's what kept me in that stressful and constant state. It doesn't have to be that way. I'm not where I want to be completely yet, but I'm getting better and better and better, and that's what I focus on. You can focus on the fact that, if you are trying to meditate, like maybe it's hard for you to get into there, but you keep trying. You say, well, I'm getting better at it. I'm constantly doing it, and it's going to be getting better and better and better. And I know that, and you can pat yourself on the back about that. It's a great thing. So I guess I do want to talk about this image that's on the screen. I posted this on Facebook, on my Leaves of the Tree Healing Facebook page. And so I'm going to read it, and you might have already read it on the screen, or you might have already read it on my page if if you've liked my page and are following it. But I think it's just so important. And this came to me in the shower, and because, I was beating up on myself. And, well, I'm just going to read it. All right. If you could go back in time and visit with Jesus, or Yehoshua, as he was praying not to have to die, knowing he was being betrayed by one of his closest friends, and knowing that his other friends couldn't stay up with him because they either didn't believe him, that he was going to die, that he was going to be betrayed and all that, or because they didn't care enough to try to stay up and pray for him, would you comfort him? Would you tell him how much you loved him and how brave he was and how much he was doing for others? Would you tell him how thankful you are he was around trying to teach people and heal them? Would you say that it's okay to have moments of what some might consider weakness, because his faith will get him through and everything will turn out right? Would you hug him and just be there with him, sending him loving vibes, just letting him know he can count on you to help him or be there for him to comfort him as he goes through his trials? Now, can you do that for yourself? We're supposed to treat others as if they were Christ. When someone is hurting and in need, we're to be there to comfort them as they mourn and struggle. Can you do that for yourself and tell yourself that you're going to make it and that you love yourself even if you stumble from time to time? Or would you beat up on yourself like they beat up on Christ? Would you betray your inner child and tell him or her that he or she is stupid or ugly or whatever else, like Judas betraying Christ? We have to love ourselves as we would Christ. We have to comfort ourselves like we would Christ, or else we're not doing God's will. It's okay to love yourself and take care of yourself and comfort yourself and forgive yourself. It's actually the right thing to do. We're supposed to forgive everybody as if they are ourselves. And if we can forgive them, then we have to forgive ourselves too. And it's just so important. And I know some people, they focus on the opposite. Some people, they can forgive themselves, but they can't forgive other people. That's not a problem I have. I can forgive other people. I understand why they do what they do because I made so many mistakes myself. But then I go and beat myself up. So we need to be able to just comfort ourselves, to say it's okay that I made a mistake. It's okay that I did this. I didn't know better. And if we don't do that, we are like beating up on Christ. When the sheep and the goats parable has him saying, those who took care of those who were hungry, they fed me. And those who took care of those who had no clothes and they clothed them, they clothed me. So for those people out there who are beating up on themselves, they should be taking care of themselves, comforting themselves like they would Christ. That is the way we're supposed to be. That is God's will for us, is to forgive and love ourselves as we would Christ. Not that I'm saying he needs to be forgiven, of course, but that's just my point. Sorry. So, I was trying to move this webcam, and now I've messed this up. Let me move this there, because you don't need to see that anymore. All right. So it's just so important for us to love ourselves, and it is God's will for us to love ourselves. And then if we can say that it's not a big deal that we messed up, we can say that we're getting better, you know, we're learning. Every single time that we make a mistake, we're learning. And every time that something negative happens in our life, we're learning, and we're sending forth the message of something that we want. And if you send forth the message of something that you want, it is you praying for it, and it's already been received. The answer is already there. We just need to now let it in. So if you feel like I don't have enough money, the money's there. If you feel like I don't have enough the freedom to do what I want to do in this life, I'm stuck doing this job that I hate or something, the actuality is that you can do something that you love. And you can have enough money to take care of everything. You don't have to do negative things, you know, whatever negative feelings are, you can deal with those things. A negative feeling is just to show that you're not looking at this situation the same way that your inner being or higher self or God is. We can bring forth all that stuff into our lives. We just need to stop blocking it off, basically. And thinking negatively about ourselves is blocking it off. So I'm just wondering if you guys have any other questions or comments or anything you want to talk about in the chat. But it's just, I just wanted to talk about how important it is, because I had to deal with this. I have to deal with just feeling like I'm not worthy. And I know that that was some of it. Like, there was a time where I wasn't making like any money practically, and it's because I felt like I wasn't worthy of it. And the more and more I forgave myself, the more and more opportunities were coming into my life. But sometimes you have to deal with your fear, which is what some of the stuff that I'm dealing with now is. I had to deal with my fear. And as I do that and just let go and relax, then God can take care of it. And then I find out, oh, there was nothing to fear about. So it's really nice when you can do that. Good things can happen, surprises and all that. And we are supposed to take care of ourselves as if we were Christ. And that's what I wanted to focus on in this video, because some people don't. And there's some people out there who say, like, loving yourself is a negative thing. And some people would focus on, oh, you're a sinner and all that stuff. And we're supposed to be comforting ourselves, not beating up on ourselves. Beating up on ourselves does nothing except hold us back from what we want and what God is trying to give us. He gives the sun and the rain to the evil, the supposed evil, you know, our enemies that we're supposed to love as God loves them, and be perfect as God is perfect. And that's all in the same section in the Bible, because it's all the same idea. He sends the sun and the rain on the evil. He's giving abundance and money to the supposed evil because he's perfect. He gives it to everybody. It's only when we let it in that it manifests into our lives. So that's why some people can grow up in a rich household and they're always rich, because they just feel like they are rich. They never have this negative thought patterns of like, I have to work hard for money or it comes very hard for me. But they still have their own issues, like, you know, not feeling content, like never having enough, or they don't have enough love, or they hate themselves because they grew up in a family where the father said, you know, you have to do this, or something. And then they never measure up to their father or whatever. And they have their own personal issues. Even the rich have their own personal issues. It's not like it's all free sailing for the rich, you know? And some people have that thought But it's not. We all are just letting in what we're letting in. And if you're rich, you might be letting in the money, but you're not letting in the love, you know, the contentedness, the relaxation. Whereas if you're maybe middle class or something, you could be letting in the love. Maybe you're not letting in the relaxation, but you could be letting in the love. Or the opposite, you can let in relaxation, but maybe you aren't finding your love because you're beating up on yourself, but you know that you have enough money for what you want, but you're beating up on yourself so you don't feel like people can love you or they don't appreciate you or something, you know? We all have our own issues that we're blocking off and our own things that we're letting in, but we all have something we're blocking off. And what I'm trying to get to the point of is letting go and not blocking off anything. And I think to do that, it's focusing on your emotions. If you feel negatively about something, then like that you feel like you're led about, like I said, with this product testing thing, I felt led to do it, but I felt fearful. But then I realized the fear is just the fact that I'm not seeing this situation the same way God is seeing it. And when I took the leap of faith, it worked out. And so the same thing goes. If you feel led to get a different job, and I'm not saying you should go get a different job if you hate your job, because sometimes it's just repenting in your mind, turning your mind around, and all of a sudden you can love your job. And, you know, it doesn't mean that you have to quit. Like Abraham talks about, if you are having an issue with your partner, it doesn't mean that you should break up. It just means you should change your mind so that you see your partner in a different light. You don't have to break up. You don't have to move jobs. You can have a different perspective of the same job. Ask yourself or ask the Father, your higher self or the Father, how do you see this relationship? How do you see this job? What is it good for me? Where is the silver lining? What am I getting? You know, how are you looking at this? And your inner being, the higher self, God, whatever you want to call it, is seeing them in an unconditional state and not seeing it as a negative. So whatever you're seeing as a negative is not really the true representation. So that's why you don't have to always break up. You don't have to get a new job. You might be led to a new job because your vibration has increased to the place where it's time to move to a new job. You know, it'll feel exciting and awesome. Maybe a little bit of butterflies if you're afraid because you're not seeing it in the same way that God is. And that was my point. So our emotions are definitely telling us how to see things. And of course, as I mentioned in that other video, if you're afraid of something, it doesn't necessarily mean that you should go do it just because you think your inner being is okay with it. Like if I'm afraid to go stand in the middle of the street and get hit by a car, that doesn't mean that I should go stand in the middle of the street and be hit by a car. Sometimes our fears are there just to preserve our bodies and not, you know, I'm not being led to go do that. If you're going, you know, being led to do something, but you're afraid because of this or that, and you don't like trust God, well, that's a thing that you might want to do a leap of faith on. Just saying, you want to pray on these big decisions, of course. I'm not telling you to go spend money on something or quit your job, etc. But if you feel led by the Spirit to do something and you're feeling fear or worry about it or whatever, then it might be that you're just not seeing the situation the same way He is. And that's where leaps of faith do come into view, where you should probably do that if you're really feeling led to do something. Are there any questions or comments or anything you guys want to talk about today in the chat room? Just waiting to see because I know that there's a little bit of lag. And yeah, it's nice to see you all here. And I hope you're all having a good weekend. And if there isn't, then that's okay. Then I'll probably end the live chat today. And like I said, really thankful you guys came out here, and I hope you all have a great weekend. And I guess I'll stop the chat because there weren't any other questions, comments, or anything. But yeah, have a great week, and I hope this really helped. Thanks.